So fabulous evening to all of you who have joined. We have somebody from the very far off, they're starting their day there. I'm all happy and excited to welcome Dr. Lara, the Associate Professor from Fucape Business School from Brazil. She's starting her day today. It's around 8:45, 9 a.m. in the morning. And I'm indeed happy and glad that she has accepted our invitation to interact with all our students on this very important platform. Well, let me extend a heartfelt welcome to all the ones who have joined, the people from GIBS, all the stakeholders who have joined from GIBS, and also we have the guests from outside the GIBS as well, who are a part of this very important session. We name it as IRE series. IRE stands for Innovation, Research, and Entrepreneurship. Dr. Lara, I'm very happy to inform you that we are one of the leading business schools in Bangalore, a south part of India, which has a bigger vision to nurture tomorrow's leader, to nurture tomorrow's budding entrepreneurs. And no doubt, this program called IRE has been a flagship program in our institute since the last 5 years. And I'm so happy that we are able to nurture, we are able to come out with a lot of successful entrepreneurs from the institute. That's what, the true or a moral business school is all about, seeing their students getting out successfully and starting their own venture is what we really love to express. And yes, GIBS IRE Talks have been, as a flagship program, as I said, we're able to conduct hundreds plus sessions on this platform. And over the last 1 year, we have personally been able to connect to a lot of experts across the globe. I believe that we have already covered 100 plus international sessions as well, where we have people like you addressing our students on the different domain, which is very, very essential. And today, considering the geopolitical crisis that's going on in the world, I believe we have you at the very right moment. It's the right time to talk about international business, marketing, and all that. And we have coined today's title or session very beautifully: Emerging Global Markets and Global Opportunities, Lessons from Latin America. Honestly, I myself, if I talk about Latin American country, I'm myself a big fan of Brazil, for multiple reasons. One, the country has bounced back, the way it has bounced back from the poverty economic hit country to what country today it is. And of course, the beautiful football team since the 90s till now. I'm a big fan of Brazil. It's definitely in my bucket list to visit. And I'm sure, Dr. Lara, I'll be able to meet you in person in your campus one day. That's indeed a wish. Well, on behalf of all the students out here, on behalf of the faculty colleagues and the top management of GIBS, I extend my heartfelt welcome to Dr. Lara. It's indeed a pleasure having you, Dr. Lara. Considering it's the start of the day, your dedication, your time you're giving to us, I really appreciate that. So it's all yours now. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Guru. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm going to share my screen. Okay, are you seeing the presentation?
Not yet. Yes, it's getting
Okay,
shared.
now?
1 second. Yeah, perfect.
Okay, perfect. Good. So thank you very much for the invitation, and hopefully I will add some knowledge to you, and I'm really excited to speak and to understand more about India. I made some research about India, trying to compare with some aspects from Latin America. So hopefully I made it great, but I would love to hear thoughts and talk about this so important topic. So thank you very much again for the invitation.
Pleasure's all ours.
Okay.
Thank you.
So just to start, first of all, it's just to explain a little bit what is Latin America, which kind might be a little bit confused. I put like a framework. It's not like you have to follow, but 3 points that I consider very, very important in terms of consumer behavior, which is my main area of research. I bring some case to discuss and some highlights, then we can discuss at the end. Okay? Good. So just to start to present myself. So I'm Brazilian. I'm talking from here, Espírito Santo. It's a small state in the middle of Brazil. So it's very close to Rio de Janeiro. And this idea of beautiful beach, sunny, it's what I live in Espírito Santo. So it's a very, very nice place, beautiful place. You are all invited to come to know Fucape, to know Brazil, and to visit me on Spirit Santo. So we are divided in 5 regions. So this is southeast, south, northeast, midwest, and north of Brazil. So just to have an idea how we are divided. And here in southeast is the richest part of Brazil. So we have São Paulo, Rio de Janeiro, Minas Gerais, and Espírito Santo, just to have an idea how developed we are. So it's a picture from Vitória. I'm a huge fan of Vitória, so it's very beautiful. Vitória is an island, and this bridge connected to the other city, Vila Velha. So as you see, at the coast with a lot of beautiful beaches. So you're all enjoyed, are invited to join Vitória. Okay? And I'm a professor in Fucape Business School. I'm also have a account firm and tech firm. I work for a tech firm. And Fucape Business School, it's a top 10 in Brazil, so they are highly prestigious, and we just focus on business. So this is our area of research, we're talking about every day, and what we are passionate for. So just to explain, what is Latin America really? So this concept of Latin America is not an internal concept, it's an external concept. So basically you have the whole continent, which is America, and you have this part in green, which you call Latin American, because it was designed to distinguish Latin, this Catholic part of America, from the Anglo-Saxon, the Protestant part of America, which is United States and Canada. So it's very, very diverse. So talking about Latin American as a whole, it's very difficult because we have a lot of particular perspectives from each country. So we don't have this kind of identity, self-identity. Of course, we share some characteristics, but this is why we are called Latin American, just for you to have an idea. And this is a picture from Bad Bunny, and it was a big discussion here because he put all the flags from all Latin American countries in terms of trying to generate this identity. And especially speaking from Brazil, we do not speak Spanish as most of the countries from Latin America. So basically just us speak Portuguese. And this is a point that make terms of culture, in terms of language, in terms of decision, us a little bit different. And you have this kind of barrier to create a unique sense of the same population. Okay. So just to have an idea, if we compare, for example, Argentina, Mexico, India, Argentina have like a higher GDP, a good penetration. Brazil also has a good internet penetration. we spend a lot of time online. We are really crazy about like WhatsApp and social media. Our quality of the internet, it's not like very good if you consider the whole Brazil, but we are very connected, especially from mobile. Okay. And it was something very interesting to me when I was doing my research, because in Argentina you have more mobile connections than in Brazil. I could guess that was more in Brazil, but is in Argentina. And we are very different in terms of culture. Why I'm talking about culture? It's because as a researcher, we know that culture influence the way we think, the way we act, the way we do business, of course, the way we consume. So it's a very important characteristic in terms of how we act and how we take decisions. Okay. You have a website you can access if you want, just for fun, which is Countering Comparison Tool, based on Hofstede research, that they have like types and characteristics from culture. And I just to keep my comparison, I compare Brazil, Argentina, India, and Mexico. And if you see, India scores very low about uncertainty avoidance, which means that you usually can take more risks than if you think about Latin America, or at least the examples that I bring. So Brazil, Argentina, Mexico, they score very high in uncertainty avoidance, which means we don't tend to take too much risks. And Mexico is very high in indigence than Argentina and Brazil, but we are much more higher than India in indigence. So we take more hedonic decisions, more for pleasure than India. Of course, I'm not saying about everybody, okay, everybody's too much, but on average. So just keep it in mind. And I was doing my research about India and say, okay, when you say about Latin America, we are very diverse, many countries, we do not speak Spanish, you speak Portuguese. I can speak Spanish a little bit, I can understand, but it's because I'm studying Spanish, but it's not like natural. And I was quite surprised that in India you have 22 official languages. So it's like an extreme regional variation. It's very diverse, which is very, very interesting. So it was really, really nice to know a little bit more. So India is very diverse, and being like just one country, as we are very diverse in Latin America. We also are very diverse in terms of Brazil too. We all speak Portuguese, but with very different accents. My husband is from Bahia, which is other state that share borders with Espírito Santo. But when we met each other 10 years ago, some expressions I couldn't understand, and we are speaking Portuguese, so it's also very diverse too. So if we just look to Latin America as just look to India as just one thing, aggregating this level hide more than review. So strategy, it begins where this level ends. So we really need to understand our consumer or marketing we are addressing. So in terms of framework, I bring these three layers that are very, very important to understand how to make business in a country in Latin America, in the wherever. So the first point, culture. So how our norm systems, how we think. The second point, the institutions. which could be very, very different in terms of countries in Latin America. Especially in Brazil, we like to change things in the middle of the way, as we used to say. So we are going through a big tax changing all our tax systems, but we're going to change in 7 years. Our tax system is like crazy in Brazil. It's very difficult to account us. And the third condition are the material conditions. So income is more related to this economic ecosystem. So consumer behavior in emerging markets, as we can like kind of compare Brazil and India in terms of emerging marketing, is the output of these interactions of the three layers. So one layer is not enough to explain. And if you not consider to adapt to your strategy to one of these layers, probably your strategy is going to fail. So just to explain these three layers, 3 points. First, cultural norms, symbolism, values, hope. So how we see the world. Culture kind of shape how we understand the world and how we take decisions, which is very important to doing business. The second are the institution, the formal and the informal rules of the game, and especially how we understand the institutional voids, the institutional gaps that can have a very interesting market in these gaps. I'm going to give you some examples. And the third point is the material conditions. So income, banking inclusion, digital infrastructure, demographics. And one point in Brazil, which is very sad, it's because we experience this demographic boom, but now our population is getting older, and maybe we'll get older without getting rich, which is a problem in terms of economic. So we are very concerned about this, how we can develop our country to do not have like old population without have a good economic condition. This is it's a important point that economists are discussing in Brazil. Okay, so understand these 3 points, have like a general view of Latin America. Let's see some cases and how this can be more applied to a practical case. First case is Mercado Libre, which means kind of free market. And Mercado Libre is a company from Argentina. It's like Amazon, probably you know Amazon from the United States. So Mercado Libre in Brazil, it's bigger than Amazon. So it's really our biggest marketplace. Was founded in 90s, almost 20s, to Marcos Galperin. And this is interesting because sometimes I talk about this case to my students, and when I say that Mercado Libre is from Argentina, they say, wow, it's not from Brazil, because it's a really, really important market. Brazil is a really important market to Mercado Libre. So almost 50% of the market from Mercado Libre from Brazil. And it operates in 18 Latin American countries. But the scenario where Mercado Libre started was in Argentina in early 20s. In a scenario with hyperinflation, which unfortunately is very common in Latin America countries. So Brazil in early 90s changed the currency to real. We use real nowadays, but we already had many economic plans that failed. And Argentina is going to an hyperinflation time. So a currency collapse. some in banking freeze, sovereign default, so an environmental not very good in terms of doing business. And Mercado Libre born on this environment and design scarce to show everywhere. And if you think about the Q3 using Hofstede to kind of explain some points in Argentina, you see that uncertainty avoidance is scores at 86, which is this one of the highest in the region in Latin America. So we say that the society craves structures and rules operating in institutional environment that fails chronically because of these economical points. And in this paradox, Mercado Libre borns. So in terms of our 3 layers, in terms of material, we had at that time low price penetration, distrust in check, high in checks, and high informality. So the platform had to be more than a marketplace. They had to invent and payment infrastructure, which is called Mercado Pago, what means like paid market, something like this. But this demand was not really clear at the time, but it was a point that made Mercado Libre very successful. In terms of institutions, the courts are slow, with a low consumer protection. So the marketplace become this private arbiter. The scroll system functioned as a private tribunal, and Mercado Libre became an institution that Argentina, as a country, could not reliably provide. And in terms of culture, with a high uncertainty, it explains the success of reputation and rating system. So the reputation of Mercado Libre spreads a lot, and they have as Amazon nowadays, but we are talking about like more than 20 years ago. We are getting old. And this rating system make Latin American consumers understand and put trust in Mercado Libre. So this is a very good point, a very important point in terms of the success of the institution. So if we analyze the playbook, we have an institutional fail in terms of government. So a platform could kind of substitute trust, a scarce trust. So reputation system was very, very, very important. And a stable currency. As I told, it's a chronic problem in Latin America. So they had to offer payment products to preserve the value and to give the conditions to the consumer buy the products. So if you think about this playbook and these layers, it can adapt to any market. So I really think that are 3 important points that we can think and rely on it to adapt the strategies in any market. And in terms of India, the open question is whether the Indian consumer business are designed to these institutional voids, not or just to stumbling into them. So maybe we can adapt this perspective to India too, hopefully. So just a reflection to before we move to the next case, sorry. Does this playbook feel familiar? Maybe you have some companies in India that had to adapt their strategies in terms of institutions, how to deal with Indian institutions, or how to deal with Indian culture. I have an idea of how diverse Indian culture is, which is really amazing in terms of research, but I think it's a huge challenge in terms of business. So if you have seen Indian platforms doing something similar, or familiar with this framework, please share with me at the end of the presentation. And our second case is a Brazilian case. It's Nubank. Nu means naked in Portuguese, which is a curious name. And it's because Brazil, it's very, not just Brazil, but in terms of Latin America, it's kind of a truth. It's very bureaucratic. So sometimes it's very difficult to do things because you have to go to a place and to other place and to other place and jumping to all this place to solve your problem. So nu comes from naked. So it's a fintech, started as a fintech, now it's a bank, to fight against this bureaucracy. Okay, so it was founded, sorry, in 2013 by David Velas, Cristina Junqueira, and Eduardo Bibo. In 2025 was more than 100 million of consumers in Brazil, Mexico, and in Colombia. 60% of all Brazilian adults are consumers in Nubank. I have a banking account in Nubank. And the expansion began in 2029 in Mexico, and they had to adapt to the strategy. So the point is, when they started in Brazil, okay, I'm going to say this in the next slide, but we can explore the layers here as we explored in the other case. And it was very interesting case about brand positioning. So they started very well positioned in the terms of being naked, being easy to Brazilians, easy to open an account, to have a credit card, because credit is very important in Brazil. If you think that we have a low income and sometimes a difficult access to credit. So in the three layers, we have a high uncertainty avoidance. So the brand operates to reduce some ambiguity. High collectivism, so it's very important here, word of mouth, not just mass advertising. So we really believe in what others, friends or family or colleagues are saying. And power distance. So it was positioned as a not traditional bank, because if you think about Brazil, we had like four biggest banks, very bureaucratic, with all these institutional things behind, and Nubank came to break it. So when they started in Brazil, they started with a no-fee credit card. So you can have a credit card here. And Brazilians love credit cards. We make like 10, 12 installments. This is very common to us. And all the credit cards, they used to have fees. And Nubank started with this product. For credit cards, without fees, very easy to have, okay? But when it started in Mexico, if you see the bank inclusion in Brazil, it's much more higher than the bank inclusion in Mexico. So they had to make people in Mexico open a banking account, what we call it cuenta nu. So a digital account addressed to this unbanked gap. So same company starting with different strategies, adapting to these ecosystems. And the important point here is a translation, not a replication, which means the strategies that going great in Brazil doesn't mean that's going to be great in Argentina, in Mexico, in Colombia, or in any other country from Latin America, okay? So Nubank addressed different voids in each country, keeps the same brand and the same DNA. So the point here is that brands scale by this translation, not just a replication. It's not just a copy and paste. You need to adapt to the strategies, even if you are talking with different countries in Latin America. And this was what other good surprise. Sorry, I'm talking too much. I'm going to the end, I promise. I love to talk. So this is an important point. I was thinking about other case, and in Brazil we have PIX. And in my research, I found UPI in India. Sorry if I'm not pronouncing right, but it's the same idea of product, but in a very different architecture. So PIX do not come from a company in Brazil. It is a part of our financial system. So the operator is the central bank in Brazil, and every bank have to offer PIX. So it's how we send money to each other. You can really send money, like you can buy an apartment making a PIX. And it's close to big techs, and domestic digital banks dominate. And I saw the UPI is quite different because you have like more voluntary incentives. It's not really from government, open APIs, Google Pay, PhonePe. So a very different logic. One is in Brazil, this come from the government. In India, it's more from private sector, as I understood. So sorry if I'm making any kind of mistakes. And this is an important point because we have a big penetration of PIX. So we have less users than India. Our population is not so big as India, but like 80% of our population use PIX. And really, this is something that everybody has. For example, yesterday I was parking my car and came, I don't know if it's common in India, but it's common in Brazil. One of a guy came, like a homeless, helping me to park my car. And he asked me for some money, and I told him I don't have any money, like cash, physical cash, and I really don't have. I don't have even a coin if I want to give you as a gift. I really don't have. But I told him I have PIX. Can I send it? And he said, yeah. And so I sent some reais to him. So even in this case, from homeless, they have someone to send the pigs, and I could give this money, but I really do not use any physical money for maybe 2 or 3 years. I can remember the last time that I see really a real. So we have, in terms of this difference of products, if you can call PIX and UPI, we have these different success metrics. So PIX have in proportional reach biggest population, but I understood that UPI is very, very important payment system to India. So each country chose a strategy, and I consider that they had success following this strategy. So coming back to our layers, Brazil was 85% banked before PIX. I researched that India started with 58%. And in terms of institutional, Brazil use PIX as mandatory from the central bank. In India, it's a voluntary adoption. In terms of cultural, Brazil uncertainty avoidance, it's very high. So maybe we did not trust so much if it comes from a private company. But in India, you tend to take more risks. So it was very successful. And the 2 points interesting is Pix did not kill cards or credit cards. It expanded marketing in the credit market in Brazil. So the volume of transactions with cards grew in Brazil. And in India, we also have a growth of consumers in credit. Is because these instant payments bring more people into the systems. So unbanked people start to have this account and this formal financial story, so making this market grow. And this difference in the regulatory ways that we adopt. In Brazil, we blocked, for example, WhatsApp Pay. So we have this domestic digital banks with a consumer relationship. And India opened these APIs to big techs like Google Pay, PhonePe, that have more than 80% of transactions according to my research. So in terms of regulation, it really affects how the marketing behave. So the regulator designs the consumer and the architecture, choice every time. So this is why it's so important to understand these institutions. So I think the three questions that are going to the end, three questions we need to ask is what institutional voids does my consumer navigate, and how does my product implicitly address it? How do I solve the problem from my consumer? We need to really take care about this rational consumer, because if we go to more economic literature, the consumer behavior, it's more rational. If we go to marketing, we know that consumer behavior is not as rational as it appears. So we need to calibrate and understand the culture to take to understand the opportunities. And when I displace an informal practice, am I doing a trust function the customer still needs? So it's very important to understand how your customer is going to react to all these changes. And this is a personal belief, and I really believe that emerging markets are going to shape the consumer in the next decade. So the research will be written in São Paulo, Buenos Aires, Mumbai, Laos, and it's very important that we understand these particularities from these markets. So we should be inductive, not imposed. So as the term of Latin America was imposed, and we are very different, we need to be more inductive. We need to understand more deeply why we do behave, how we behave, and the institutions and the market we are. So these are my three reflections for you at the end. So thank you very much. Hope it makes sense for you, and I'm really excited to hear your thoughts.
Absolutely. It was, indeed great to witness the kind of research that you have made to compare with the Indian scenario as well. I really appreciate that. And then
Thank you.
it was so factual that the details that you put across. I'm so very happy that Brazil is also almost on the verge of matching the global standards, in terms of the business alignment. I'm very happy and thank you so much for this wonderful interaction. As I said, it's absolutely apt in today's scenario, considering the geopolitical situations that we are going into right now, understanding the issues is very, very important. While I take the questions from the students, this is my personal question to you, Dr. Lara. You have been watching the crisis, the ongoing crisis, which has led to the possible hit in the global economy. How is Brazil reacting to the ongoing war between America, um, Israel, Iran? In any way, it has impacted Brazil?
Yeah, for sure. It impacts Brazil, especially in a very sensitive point, which is inflation, because here we have Petrobras, which is an oil company from government, one of our biggest company. And this war, of course, influenced the price of the oil. So influence something very basic, and it tends to influence the inflation, make it even higher. So if you understand that we are a poor country, it affects directly the consumer and the base, as we call the base of the pyramid. So yeah, we do not take so much attention, to the fight and why they are fighting, but especially in terms of oil, in terms of inflation. And this year in Brazil, we have the World Cup. We are not very happy with our selection, just to make a point. I know the world is a big fan of Brazil team, and thank you very much for this, but we are not very happy. But this is a year that we are going to change the president too. So if you change the inflation, if you affect the inflation, you are going to affect not just today, but of course the decisions to the next. The president is elected every 4 years, and now we are with Luiz Inácio Lula. It's more known as Lula. He's from more left, so from the work party, and probably this is going to affect the elections too. I cannot say really how this is going to affect, but we are. It is quite early because the election are going to be in October, so a lot of things can change till then. But we are seeing now a growing from the right, which more linked to Bolsonaro. He was the president before, after Lula.
Great. Well, how about the startup culture in Brazil? How do you think the Brazil's government is nurturing the budding entrepreneurs of tomorrow?
We are fighting for it's this is I'm not an economist, but I'm going to say as a entrepreneur, as an associate in an accounting firm, and also work in a tech company. And especially we are government from politics more from the left, which means we tend to be more higher taxes. And tax system in Brazil, it's very, very complicated, as I told at the beginning of my presentation. Now we are going to kind of rebuild this tax system, trying to make it easier, but this changing are going to take like 7 years, 8 years. So it's going to be a long way to make all the adaptations. And this, of course, are going to impact our entrepreneurships, or how we do business, are going to make different the opportunities. So I know they are trying to make a better system and more efficient and easier system, but we don't really know if how well it's going to be.
Right. Well, for the audience and everyone who has joined here, you might be aware that India has a fantastic relationship with Brazil. We are a part
Yeah.
also of the one of the strongest union of the country of the world, BRICS. Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. We have an amazing trade relationships. We have amazing political relationships. We've been together even during the tough times like COVID, if I'm right. India was also able to supply a lot of vaccines to Brazil and vice versa. We did together great, and there are a lot of upcoming policies and procedures that will make the relationship even more stronger for Brazil and India. Well, I have one question from student. How can the small businesses benefit from global opportunities in emerging markets? I'm sure India has, a lot of MSMEs. I call it as micro, small, medium enterprises. I'm
Yeah.
sure there are many in Brazil as well. So how can
Yeah.
MSMEs, maybe in Brazil, if you can take an example, benefit from the global opportunities in emerging markets?
Yeah, I really think that we have some similarities in terms of India and Brazil because we have kind of some equal problems. Of course, we have to adapt. But so I really think understanding an emerging country as you understand India, it's kind of not easy, but less difficult, let's say this to understand the country and these complexities. So I really think that some solutions from India can be adapted and really applied to Brazil because we need, especially for small entrepreneurs, we need a lot of creative to go through this challenge. So export to Brazil in terms of products, it's not that easy. We have a lot of barriers. We are not very open. We are not like a tax paradise or things like this. But I really think that in terms of service, could be much more kind of a good, not much more easy, but kind of a good way to explore this opportunity, especially if you can do this, online, because we are very connected. So if you have kind of, I really think this, if I started to think about how to get into Brazil, I was really thinking about from other countries, especially from India, thinking about how to do this online. And because I think you have lower barriers, you are going to have the barrier of the language because in Brazil we do not speak in English. You can see that my English is not like brilliant. I can speak well, but it's not perfect. And most Brazilians do not speak English, but Brazilians are very connected to the internet, especially from mobile. So I think this is, if I start to think about some international business, I would start to think there.
Great. Another interesting question. Let's assume if somebody from India would want to invest or probably want to start up a new business in Brazil, what is the biggest growth opportunity that I have? Maybe in Brazil or Latin America as a whole. Growth
Difficult question.
opportunity.
Yeah, difficult question, but I think it's kind of the in the same way that last, but I think we have as emerging countries, we have this quality to understand the problems and the challenge from the base of the pyramid, and there is a huge economy on the base of the pyramid. So it's not just think about products and services to reach, to Europe, to United States, but think how to solve problems in the base of the pyramids because we have okay, in terms of population, I cannot say anything about Brazil because Egypt is have a huge population, but we have a big population, I still young population, so not that old. We are making this transition. So if you're thinking about the pyramid, the age pyramid of Brazil, we are almost not really a pyramid, we're more like this. And so we are making this change, but we still have this demographic boom that we can take advantage. So maybe this digitalization, thinking about solving problems on the bottom of the pyramid, and how to use, this youngest generation, as we are not that old, could be good ways to start in this international market.
I mean, if the question was reverse, like, if you ask me that question, what is that biggest growth opportunity that I get if my investors from Brazil set up a business in India? There are multiple things over here. We are 1.43 billion population, right? A
Yeah,
beautiful, diversified market. And I should really appreciate since 2000, I would say since 2 decades right now, the ease of doing business is amazing. I mean, getting approvals, faster movement of papers for any foreign
nice.
investors is very rapid, very quick. Government ensures all the required support to set up your businesses very rapidly. And of course, technologically, we are benchmarking, we are aligned with the global developments that you have been seeing around. And yeah, the most important asset that we have in our country is the intellectual capital. We have a wonderful labor force in our country, and no doubt, Indians are everywhere in the globe. Be it in the top
Yeah,
companies in the world, and of course, I mean, this has the quite, which will definitely result in a lot of growth and a lot of expansion possibilities for the businesses in India. As you rightly said, there are a lot of things that is similar between India and Brazil, which is very good to explore together in the long run. Well, you are also
yeah.
a professor, you are an academician, at the same time you work in the corporate as well. So one of the question from the student is very apt to you. How can young professionals prepare themselves to work in the global market without international experience, or I would say with limited international experience?
Okay, perfect. Just one point to your last reply, because here in Brazil we have a huge challenge, which is education. We have access to education, so this access is not the main point now, but we don't have a quality of education. I mean, Fucape is a reference, but I know this is not the reality from Brazil, you know. So we have in some place really, really good education, but it's not a reality for all Brazilians. So this is a challenge that we have to go through in this decade now. It's urgent because education is something very important to grow economy, of course. So this is an interesting point and a point of difference, and maybe between Brazil and India. So thank you very much for your point. And okay, so how important is corporate international? Okay, international experience. Um, you already have an advantage because you speak in English. So this is the point, which as I told you, difficult to Brazil. In terms of Latin America, also understand Spanish. It's important, or Portuguese if you are thinking especially in Brazil. But the careers are getting more and more, international, because especially if you consider technology, if you consider um, web and development, things like this, because, for example, I have the access to almost the same tools that you have the access. So I think 2 points are important. Understand the way that this country you are looking for or this market you are looking for, they negotiate. So understand basic things of culture and English, of course, and understand the technologies because culture. I know maybe I'm speaking a lot of this point, but culture shapes the way how we think and how we see the world. So if you are going to negotiate, if you are looking for an international experience, you must understand that negotiate with someone from India, from Argentina, from United States, it's totally different. So the points they evaluate, the points they care about, what generate values, what is the main point in market, what generate value to your consumer, they are radically different. So understand the culture, how they negotiate, understand the little of the country, of course, and English, and of course understand the technology. So this education skills are also important too. These are my points.
Great. Of course, everyone today talks about the emerging technologies. So one of the question is, what is the role of technology in unlocking global opportunities? I would be happy if you could answer this from the Brazil and the Latin American point of view. How's the trend in terms of technological innovations in Latin America and Brazil in particular?
Okay, so I think a clear trend now it's AI. And how AI it's unlocking a lot of opportunities. From a tech company, we adopt a lot of AI. For example, part of this presentation and part of this research were made by cloud. We are using cloud a lot in terms of tool, but it's ChatGPT, Gemini. It's kind of depend of the marketing you are. And I think, but the biggest point is understand AI as a tool, and you really need these critical things. For example, we have developers here, very juniors, and we have a senior develops. So to the juniors, it's more difficult to get the knowledge to be a senior because AI facilitates the process, sorry, so much that we are forgetting about this critical thinking. So I really think it's important, we have this level of education to understand AI as a tool and how to use. Because what I see from my, again, from my point of view, from my perspective, okay, it's not like from research, and so it's from my life, my daily practice, is people are adopting such tool, cloud, ChatGPT, and whatever, but they are not really thinking. So the solution is not the best solution, and they are not using, in the best ways because they don't really know how to use. They are very superficial. So I really think that AI are going to change how we develop the products and service, but the critical thing from my point, it's like the main skill to this new market, and it's difficult to develop, very difficult.
Great. I would take up the last question. This would be my question from my personal experiences. India has planned something big for 2047, which is we have termed as Viksit Bharat. 2047, we would be completing 100 years of independence. And,
Yes.
we have some great plans in everything, in every domain, in every industry. There's something big that we want to achieve by 2047. I really want to know the similar plans with Brazil and Latin America as a whole. Where does Latin America wants to see itself maybe in 10 or 20 years down the line, maybe 1 or 2 decades down the line? or where do you want Brazil to see yourself? What is the vision that Brazil has for the coming years?
Difficult question to reply, especially this year, because of this change of government. Because our next 4 or 5 years, it's going to be quite decide in October, and this really can change how we are going. If you change from left to right politics. And now in Brazil, we are really discussing, because we are a republic, a democratic republic, and we are really discussing this integration of the powers in this republic, because we are maybe from the last 10 years, in every government, we are having huge scandals of corruption. So initially, I don't know how much you heard about it, but in every government, I'm not saying right is better than left, really not saying about it, but we are scandals from everything that you can imagine. So we are, in terms of future, we are really discussing how we are going to stopping this, and how the different instances of the institutions are going to speak better, and how we are going to move on from there. So, and again, it's a very important year in terms of to decide the future, in terms of plans, because from Lula, it's 80 something or around it, so he's getting old. Um, I particularly don't like him too much, but anyway, just my personal opinion. But he had 2 mandates, and then he had a successor, Dilma, and now he had another mandate and can run to another one. So a lot of time being government by the Workers' Party. And now maybe we are going to change. So, and this, how these two forces see Brazil in the future are very, very different ways to see your future. So I really don't have I'm sorry, I really don't have an answer to this question,
Absolutely
but we
correct.
are going to a very interesting moment.
That's part and parcel of the game. That's part and parcel of the country. The volatility is very common. Of course, in India is also there is volatility, no doubt about it. But then happy is that we have a vision. We know what we want to achieve. Of
Yeah,
course,
it's very important.
it's very important. I mean, it's not so easy as well. It's indeed challenging for n number of reasons, but we are optimistic at the whole. So great, fantastic. It was an amazing interaction with you, Dr. Lara. What expectation, what outcome we had planned for your session, I would say we have met it 100%. And all
Thank
thanks to
you.
you. I have been behind you since a couple of months for this, and I'm so very happy. And of course, there was a glitch in the last week, but then we were able to convince you to come again, and you did wonderful. I would say it's indeed a honor, a pleasure, and I'm very sure there's a lot of takeaways for my students and the audience who have watched you on this very important topic. So on behalf of all the one present here, students from GIBS, faculties, the other audiences outside GIBS, I extend my heartfelt thanks to you, Dr. Lara, for spending your great quality time, I would say. And of course, this talk of us would be uploaded in our official YouTube channel also, so that a larger audience can also witness and listen to you on the topic, which is very, very niche and very, very important, especially to the international business students. Thank you so much. I indeed wish to host you one day in my campus in Bengaluru. And as I said, well, that's for sure. I want to make sure that this bucket list of mine gets a tick mark of visiting Brazil one day very soon. for the interaction with you. Lovely speaking once again, and thank you so much for being a part of this GIBS IRE Talks. I also thank all the students for being a fantastic audience and for those wonderful questions they have posted. Thanks for now. This is Professor Guru Prasad signing off. Thank you, Dr. Lara.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the invitation. It was a lovely speech. I'm here. If you need me, just let me know. And it will be a pleasure to have you in Brazil, and really excited to know India. I don't know India yet. I know China, Japan, but not India yet. So hopefully I'm going to know personally GIBS.
Absolutely. See you.
Thank
See you, Dr.
you.
Lara. Thank you
See
so much.
you. Bye bye.
Bye-bye.